right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee and Cargo. I see a lot of people are still joining here, so I'll start with some introductions and then we can get started. So my name is Rachel. I work with the marketing team here at Interlog, and we're joined today with Antonio Gomez. I'm super excited about this. It's going to be all things analytics. He has well over 9 years of experience in the business analytics, specializing transportation and supply chain sectors. So it's going to be kind of all things analytics, the power of analytics and transportation management. And he's going to end with some live demos on some basic analytics as well. So before we begin, I do want to mention that we do offer the Q&A at the bottom. So during this time while you're listening to Antonio, if there's any questions, you should see at the bottom of your screen, get it in there and we'll reach out to you at the end of this webinar. But Antonio, thank you so much for joining us here today. I'll let you take it over.
Yeah, thank you, Rachel. So I'll go ahead and pop up the deck here that I wanted to share with y'all today. And yeah, I'm excited anytime we delve in the world of analytics and we join it up with transportation. I get really excited because that's really where my area of expertise lies. So again, hello everyone. Welcome to the webinar for data analytics journey in transportation. As Rachel mentioned, my name is Antonio, and I'm thrilled to guide you through the transformative role of data analytics in transportation management. Today, we'll be exploring how data analytics can revolutionize your transportation operations and drive some significant business value, which we're certainly all looking for here. So let's first dive into and just take a quick look at the agenda for today. So to start, what we're going to be going through is understanding the analytics journey and the several stages within an analytics journey. After we'll go into some of the benefits of delving into this journey, some of the challenges, overcoming some of those challenges, and I do want to lay out a customer journey that I took a customer through in the past. I also want to take some time to show you a quick demo of some of the reports that I put together here these last couple of days that are very much focused on some of the UPS parcel. And then we will conclude, and I'll hand it out back to Rachel. So let's go ahead and get started talking about our analytics journey. And the analytics journey begins with understanding the different types of analytics. And the way that I understand analytics is in terms of the stages is you have the descriptive, diagnostic, prescriptive, and predictive stage. And typically, the way that you go on this journey is very much in this order, where you start with the descriptive analytics. And what this does is that descriptive analytics helps us understand what happened, right? What happened in the past by analyzing historical data to identify trends and patterns. For example, analyzing delivery times to identify peak periods and delays. After we get some sort of understanding on what happened, we also start getting a better understanding of the data and the possibilities, right? So then that's when we start leading into some of the diagnostic analytics, which investigates why something happened. It helps us identify the cause behind specific outcomes. An example might be determining why certain shipments are consistently delayed. But then we get into the prescriptive analytics, and anytime I think about prescriptive analytics, I think about going to the doctor, and the doctor, after he does his diagnosis, he essentially gives me a prescription for something that's going to make me feel better. So this is really what prescriptive analytics is it aims at answering the question, what should we do? An example of that might be suggesting optimal routes to reduce delivery times and costs within your LTL or parcel. And then finally, we get into the predictive, right? We get into the data science stuff, which looks at answering the question, what will happen? So it's really looking into what's going to happen in the future and doing some of the forecasts based on historical data and statistical models. So predictive analytics can essentially help forecast demand and even enable us to better resource plan for the future. And then let's move on to some of the benefits. So I know it's once you start delving into that journey, there's going to be some benefits. And I'm just going to cover cover the benefits at a very high level. So by leveraging data analytics, we can unlock efficiencies, cost optimization, real-time monitoring, and customer satisfaction. Within the efficiency, we can essentially streamline operations and identify bottlenecks to significantly enhance operational efficiency. In cost optimization, it can be employing analytics to identify cost savings opportunities, such as optimizing fuel consumption and reducing some of those empty miles to reduce essentially our carbon footprint. And then some of the real-time analytics is we can use some of those insights to track packages, monitor performance, and ensure on-time deliveries that essentially lead to improved transparency and accountability. Both not only for us making sure we're delivering packages on time, but certainly going back to some of our suppliers with some real data and being able to drive those conversations in a strategic manner. And then finally, what we're all interested is as the customer comes first is leveraging these data-driven insights to enhance customer experience and provide personalized services, resulting in higher customer retention and satisfaction. However, the journey doesn't it is not without challenges, as you all might know. So let's delve into some of those hurdles you might encounter as you dive into this journey. So as we look at some of the challenges, and I'm not going to go through all of them here, but because I know that a lot of you probably have already encountered these challenges, and these would come at no surprise. But as you start looking at these, you can start seeing that data quality integration. Some of us are working in a lot of different systems that really happen sometimes through acquisition as the company acquires other companies, and with those acquisitions there's other systems that maybe never get fully migrated into one, so it creates these data silos and potentially inconsistent formats, and there comes then some extensive cleaning efforts that can be time consuming and complex. There's also that cultural and there's also cultural and organizational hurdles, as you all might know. So fostering a data-driven mindset and encouraging across departments that collaboration that can be challenging but essential for success. And then you'll also have some talent. Some people may have a full-blown analytics department. Others may not have that. And the data people may be just people who are wrangling data within Excel. So there might be gaps in the skills necessary to actually bring about some robust analytics to your organization. And even some of the technologies, right, there's a lot of technologies out there, and some of them are quite expensive. So this may prove to be a challenge as you try to try to sell some of the stakeholders on investing in better technologies for for analytics. There's always going to be, security concerns that might slow things down, and data governance. Obviously, everybody's concerned about cost. So cost is a big ticket item, and you've got to have a solid strategic plan with a good outline of what the value is going to be to really get the stakeholders bought into analytics. But yeah, so I can keep going on and on. But let's look at some of the despite these challenges, I think there are strategies that can help us overcome them. So let's discuss some of the strategies next, to kind of help equip some of you to go back to some of your stakeholders and see how you can overcome these challenges within your organization so that you can get started on this journey if you haven't already. So one of the things that I have done in the past with previous clients is really I focus on prioritizing quick wins. I think it's important to keep the investment coming in, is that you're throughout the analytics journey that you're in, while you're creating some of these reports, that they're very much targeted on value-driven insight. So these quick wins will allow you to go back to some of these stakeholders and really get them invested and continuing that investment in the analytics that you've started. Also fostering a data-driven culture. I've seen it in many companies where you build really good reports, right? But if you don't get the people at the manufacturing companies, sometimes there's these huge initiatives from the corporate level, and they don't and there's times where they don't get they're so out of touch with the people at the manufacturing companies, and there's a lack of driving this culture across the organization. So then at the end, you have these really good reports that can be used to drive tons of value. But we haven't yet really fostered that data-driven culture across the organization. And then invest in continuous learning. Is if we want to increase for those organizations that you don't yet have the data acumen or the data literacy that's needed to take a lot of these reports and insights and turn them into actionable, and turn them into something that we can act upon. It's really going to make it difficult to continue to invest in analytics. So a big piece is to invest in our people, right, and providing them the right training and skills, and also staying up to date with some of those technologies that are coming out that are potentially making it easier to do some of these analytics, and then fostering that learning environment, right? Because that's going to ignite curiosity and innovation. Another thing is upgrading technology. There's a lot of new technology coming out where I work a lot with Microsoft Fabric, and then that technology, there's a lot of no code capabilities where a business analyst with not a lot of technical knowledge can actually go in there and do some very basic things, from data ingestion to cleaning up that data and turning it into valuable insight. So technology is going to be a huge ticket, especially with AI. It's allowing people who may not have a high acumen and tech and being able to even just code, right? And it's allowing them to just enter and do some very basic things and drive some valuable insights for that organization. And of course, again, looking at data governance and making sure that we develop comprehensive data governance policies and frameworks to adhere to data privacy regulations and implement security measures to protect sensitive information. I think that, you know, when we don't do this and we get into some of those areas of when data breaches, it's again, it's going to slow us down. It's going to make it harder to move quicker on the analytics. And then finally, manage costs and change strategy, right? To develop a clear business case and demonstrate ROI, plan and execute initiatives in phases. So instead of trying to do, you know, instead of focusing on a lot and not getting anything done, is focus on a little bit, focus on smaller initiatives where we can actually get something done. So breaking it out in phases is really going to help in terms of demonstrating that quick ROI to keep that investment coming. So another really important thing is to create a framework where you can communicate this ROI easily to management. In some of our previous work, we actually created, you know, automated ways to track the savings that came out of the analytics, and we were able to create some reporting that we called lifetime value, that any executive across the organization could look at, and they could even delve into their specific manufacturing companies and understand what the value was from the analytics department that was being provided. What this helped is it helped that continued investment, and they actually wanted more, right? So they were once they saw what the analytics could do, they started instead of asking, you know, what is it going to say, they started asking questions. What else can we do, and how, you know, what do you need from us to be able to do more? So and now let's so next I'll walk you through a real client journey. I think it's important to hear some of these success stories and get an idea of how you can approach this analytics journey as you start out. So let's go ahead and dive into one of the client journeys. And this is really just the phase one that we decided to take on with one of our clients. And what we decided is we decided that within our scope that we were going to focus on UPS parcel because that was a big part of their spend. So just using the you know 80-20 rule is we focused on this supplier. And what we did is we within this phase one is first we understood that they didn't have they weren't currently collecting any data. So we initiated the data collection on June 2022, and we collected the data from various sources. So one of the main sources though was you know, directly working with UPS and getting an electronic data interchange feed going, where we were able to get the billing data as well as the tracking data. We were able to work with some of our ERP systems to start gathering some of the operational data. Our vision was essentially to marry those things up. So there was some data in our operation systems that weren't coming back, and some of the data that UPS was providing, and vice versa. So bringing those two sets of data from both from the supplier and from internal sources, we understood that it would provide us a higher level of visibility later on. So after we worked with those stakeholders to get those data feeds going, as we worked on the data integration, right? You have to centralize that data into one central location to make it easier for analysis. So we spent about 1 to 2 months on that. And then we started building the analytics infrastructure. So we started putting together some of the tools we were going to use for the back end and front end development, um, and to be able to analyze the information. And that was a pretty quick turnaround. After that, we went on to our next step was to get into the descriptive analytics. But even before that, so what you see in the blue bullet point there, the opportunity bill pay and audit. So this was something that we didn't plan going into it. Our plan was to essentially just to capture the data from these different data sources and produce some analytics off of it, right? But what we kind of found out along this journey, and I think you'll find the same thing, is that that data is the new oil of today. So sometimes taking that data, you might have a certain idea of what you're going to do with it, and that's great. But I think always keep yourself open to opportunities, because as you start seeing that data, you're going to start to realize that it has a lot more use than just the data analytics. So in this case, what we started to see is well, we asked so when we looked at the data that was being provided by UPS, the invoice data, we understood that the data was clean. It was the exact same data that was being used to produce the PDF invoices. So one of the questions that we asked ourselves is, can we just leverage this data to automate our bill payment to UPS? And that organization was paying north of $1 million per week, and it was hundreds of invoices across the organization. So for every single invoice, it took about an hour to process from going out and getting that PDF invoice, getting it getting it to the appropriate person, who would then eventually put it in the AP system, code it with the proper financial coding, and get it ready for payment. And that was a very long process. And again, for every single invoice took an hour, and there was over 1,000 invoices per week. So what we ended up doing is we ended up leveraging that data and creating some logic that would essentially automate the GL coding. So we went out to all of the coders, and we started understanding the way that they were coding these invoices. And we started warehousing it in a structure. We started warehousing those rules in a structured format. So then eventually we could create an application that would automatically that would automatically GL code and then feed the information into our AP system, and have those invoices ready to be paid within seconds of when we received them. So we took the pain of over 1,000 invoices from a single one taking an hour to processing all those invoices in just a matter of seconds. What this did is it reduced late fees. So it was taking the company, even though the whole process took an hour, there's sometimes where invoices could sit there for many days. So at times we were getting late fees for each one of those invoices, and if you know parcel, you know how UPS charges on that can get especially on large volumes and large expense, it can be a really high amount. So it eliminated those non-value, those avoidable that avoidable expense of late fees. It helped optimize our operations, where we actually were able to reduce some of the labor or redirect some of that labor elsewhere. And and it was just a huge finding. So, so again, this was not something that we initially thought we would do, but once we got the data, we did start. We saw it as an opportunity and we ran with it, and it was extremely successful. I won't talk too much about the audit, but we did a very similar thing. We warehoused a lot of our contractual rates, and that allowed us to bounce it off against what UPS was billing us. And we identified some areas of concern, some discrepancies that we were then able to go back to UPS on a weekly basis and get some of that back. There was also an internal audit, as I call it, where we were actually just bouncing it off of our operation data and making sure that we had shipped those that we were getting charged for shipments that we know we shipped, right, based on our operational data. And when we first onboarded, we actually found over $100,000 in a given year of fraudulent shipments that were happening. So we worked with UPS to get some of that money back, but also to create a mechanism to manage and capture those going forward. But after we derailed, we came back and we started doing some of the descriptive analytics, so analyzing that historical data to just look at patterns and trends and better understand of our data. As I like to go back to this Henry Ford quote where he said, if I would have asked people what they wanted, they would ask for a faster horse, right? And instead, he created cars. So I think sometimes we don't know, and even me as someone who's been in analytics for a very long time, sometimes we don't know what we don't know, right? And that's where this descriptive phase really is impactful. It gets the data in front of us of what happened, and it allows us to start looking at it and really ignite innovation and understanding of our shipping, and lead to cost savings and doing things optimally. In October, then we created some diagnostics analytics to return to identify some of those root causes. Then we moved on to some prescriptive analytics and then the predictive analytics as well. But then at the end, towards the end of the year, it was the time for that customer to negotiate with UPS. And this is another area where we actually, now that we had this rich data that we were collecting, we were able to model it in a way that we strategically were able to negotiate with UPS, but by understanding what I call our shipping profile is within our organization, we're going to have certain products that are certain weights, and that are shipped a certain, with a certain service type, and all that really develops our shipping profile. And by understanding our shipping profile, and for that we need, historical data, is we can start picking out the weight, zone, service type, address classification, so commercial versus residential. We can start picking those specific areas that we want to negotiate on, because sometimes UPS may give you a huge discount on next day air, with a high zone and maybe, weights that are, I don't know, 17 to 20. And that's not maybe an area that you ship a lot in. So it might look good on the contract, but it might not actually create a big impact based on your shipping profile. So this was another thing that we kind of came up with that just leveraged the data that we were collecting to tell us where our volumes really hit. And this gave us the ability to take a strategic approach in how we negotiated with UPS. So in summary, for this, it's again, it's something that you can take in phases. You don't have to, eat all the cookie all at once. You take a small bite, get some value, and this is something that where you can have some, some data collection, integrations, cleansing of the data, and basic analytics all the way to some more complex analytics in just about half a year, right? And even before that, once you get into the descriptive analytics, that's really when you will start seeing things that will help you drive value. So it's not that you'll have to wait till the end, till December, till 6 months down the line. Is all along this process is you're going to start finding some areas where you can start implementing things and making some changes that'll help, right? So I highly encourage every one of you to get started on this journey. And I have no doubt that you'll be able to see some of those benefits right out of the gate. And if you need certainly help on this journey, or if you don't have an idea how to start, is I welcome you to reach out to us, and we can guide you along that journey. I'd be extremely excited to do that. So let's go on to our demo. So this demo essentially took some UPS data that I was able to get a hold of. It's not any data that any of you who are shipping UPS don't have access to. There's a format, there's a data output with about 200 plus columns. I think it's 255 columns that you can export from your billing center. And since there are a lot of fields, it is a very complex data set that does take some, I've been in that data and looking at it for over 9 years. So I've had the ability to learn it in and out, and it's allowed me to put together some reporting off of that. But it is out there for you to use, and I wanted to show you some of just the basic reporting that you can create with it. And you, of course, you can get into some more complex reporting if you wanted to. So let me go ahead and share. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself there. Let me go ahead and share something that I built just these last couple of days with those 255 fields. And I'm not using all of the fields in this report. This report is, again, UPS parcel data. I can certainly integrate other parcel suppliers into this, or even some LTL suppliers in. But for the sake of this presentation, and being able to get this up in time for the webinar, I wanted to stick with the UPS parcel data. So to start out, I just created a simple executive summary here, which gives me some basic filters across the top. Company, which I created a fictitious company, Shenanigans Corp. Canada, and Shenanigans Corp. USA. We also have the shipment date across the top. For this exercise, I just took 1 week's worth of information. I also have the service type. So under the service type, you will see just your ground, 2-day air, 3-day air, etc. I have a carrier filter. So again, UPS parcel. Where you see UPS supply chain solution, those are going to be the international, brokerage and duties invoices that come for shipments that are going international. So the supplier that gets paid for those even though it is parcel, is the brokerage side of UPS, which is UPS Supply Chain Solutions. So that's why that's showing up in there. And then you have an account number filter here, which I put some fictitious accounts in there. But then I created some very basic KPIs across the left-hand side. So I have the total shipping expense, the total shipment count, and then the total pounds shipped. And then under that, I create some really some basic metrics that are helpful to understand, what we're paying on a per package level, and also on a per pound level. Is I don't have it in this report, but as you have more and more historical data, those are nice metrics to just put on a trending report to see how these are increasing across time, and especially after your contract changes. That's going to give you some insight on the overall increase of your shipping per package and per pound cost. And then I have some simple visualizations. Even though this is an executive summary, you can still do some very basic analysis. So if I wanted to just look at UPS parcel and say I wanted to look at everything that shipped out of Minnesota, and maybe I'm wanting to look at some of those shipments that maybe incurred some high zoning. So I know California is nowhere near close to Minnesota. So being able to say, how much shipped from Minnesota to California across different services is I can see really quickly just by filtering on shipped by Minnesota, shipped to California, that our ground that we spent $937 that shipped ground to California there. So this can be some very valuable insight because it can sort of start helping us identify those high zoning that maybe if we do, so for the instance that I just brought up, there is a facility in California. So my question, let's pretend that all these facilities are producing the same thing. Is there an opportunity to maybe produce whatever we're shipping out of California and ship it to California, right? To reduce this number that, to reduce that California number, that $13,000 that's currently shipping from Minnesota to California. So that's a type of insight that you can start gaining from this report. And then I'll go ahead and jump over to what I call their shipping trend report, which just shows you some of the same information, but it shows you some of the trend analysis by service type, shipment count by service type, and count. I forgot to change the name of this, but this is actually the pounds. So the sum of pounds by service type across time. So, and here you can do a very similar thing as if I just want to focus on ground and look at those trends to just simplify it, is I can filter on ground. If I want to filter on next air, I can do that too. And it's going to show me, what those trends are across expense, shipment count, and weight as well. And then let me jump over to my very last report. And this starts looking at, trying to give you what some of the opportunities might be in reducing cost or even making sure that we're billing our customers correctly. So one thing that I identified within like the UPS data is sometimes we ship on the customer's third-party number. And for some reason or another, that third-party number is not valid. So a lot of the time this goes unseen, but if that account number is not valid, then UPS will bill back to the person who shipped it. In this case, Shenanigans Corporation. And when and those things will come back um, as a category detail charge called chargeback. So what if I filter by chargebacks, what this means is for this given week, we had $1,958 that came back to us as chargebacks, uh, or else charges that Shenanigans Corp should not have paid. They should have billed third party to the customer's number, and they should have paid for it. But because again, for one reason or another, those charges didn't go through, they came back to us and we incurred them. So now this would allow us, and then you can create some detailed reporting that would allow you to see the specific shipments, and what happened. So it'll give you a generic description of what happened, and you can start going back to the customer. And first, you'd want to get the right, the right third party number so that you can get it put in your system correctly. But then you can bill for the charges, and make sure you're getting that money back, or even doing just a rebill, so that you can get the credit back from UPS, and that can be rebilled to the customer. Now, it's important to know how to do these processes right, because even a rebill costs money. So you might be rebilling the customer, but then some of those rebill fees might end up hitting you back. So the way that you go about it, it's if you need any advice, certainly reach out to us. But there's several ways you can do it, and minimize the expense that you're going to incur. Some other things to watch out here, and that this allows us to do, is looking at our adjustments, right? So if you're a company that let's say is making margin off of your shipping, because maybe you get some amazing shipping rates, is you're going to want to watch for these post-delivery adjustments. And what these are is essentially at the time of shipment, you're sending the shipment criteria via an API, or if you're doing it manually, you're plugging it in to a shipping station or on web. And you're inputting the parameters that you think is, where the package is going, how much it weighs, and so on. Well, once you ship it, UPS validates that all that information was correct. And there's times where there may be, you may say this is going to a commercial address, but then UPS ends up delivering to a residential address. And then in that scenario, they will do a residential address correction, which in this case, let's say you're charging the customer, and you're making maybe some margin off of the shipping, but you're charging them based off of what you thought you were going to charge. Well, now there's going to be an adjustment after the fact, because maybe the customer said it was a commercial address. Let's say this house or this commercial location was in a residential area. Well, that's going to incur residential zoning, which it might be that they operate out of their home, but at the end it's still in a residential location. Therefore, it's going to get charged as a residential shipment. Then you're going to get that adjustment, and you're going to need to be able to capture that information to go back to the customer and charge the amount that you didn't upfront. Otherwise, you're going to be losing on some of this income. So this is, again, just some summary report that can help you just start delving into some of the issues that are happening. You can certainly dive into address corrections. So let's just look at address corrections here. You can see here that we have, let's actually take this out and just look at the totality of the address corrections. So again, I can look for those address corrections, and essentially this is an opportunity, right? So there's 6,635 in the address corrections that I can go after, and we're never going to eliminate everything, but 6,600 in 1 week is a high number and something that we certainly want to take a look at. When I look at this type of data, at the address corrections that are happening, what I often find out is that we continue to ship to the wrong address every single on a reoccurring basis sometimes, and that's because these addresses sometimes live in these ERP systems, and we don't have the visibility to know that we're getting an address correction. Sometimes because UPS has enough information to make that address correction on their own, and they make it. And sometimes it can be as simple as the zip code doesn't match the city that it's being sent. So they standardize it, and then they charge you an address correction for that. So being able to have visibility into that allows you to go back to your ERP systems, and if this is an address that you're shipping to on a reoccurring basis, then you're able to go back into your system, update whatever, update the address to what UPS is updating it to, and eliminate those address corrections going forward. In addition to that, we can give you some guidance certainly on how to on some of the tools out there that can help you reduce the address corrections before it even ships out. So thank you very much for your time today. Hopefully you are able to take some insights on how to start your analytics journey, or even have gained some insight onto how you can analyze some of your shipping expense for UPS or any other supplier. But with that said, I'd like to leave you with a thought-provoking quote from Geoffrey Moore that says, "Without big data analytics, companies are blind and deaf, wandering out onto the web like deer on freeway." So with this, let's ensure that we leverage analytics and stay ahead in the transportation industry by taking the first step forward here on our data analytics journey. So thanks again, and I will go ahead and pass it back to Rachel. Rachel, if you want to take over and conclude us, that would be great.
Sounds good. Thank you, Antonio. Well, thank you for showing our viewers the importance of analytics in our industry. If you guys have any questions, kind of what Antonio went over, or just in general, his email is agomez@commerceexpressinc.com. He'd be happy to talk to you guys about it. So you're actually going to see some polls pop up. We'd love to hear where your guys' data analytics journey is currently. We love learning more about what our viewers want to see and then maybe where you're at in that process. So you should see it pop up on your screen here shortly. But to conclude, our next webinar is going to be June 19th at 10 a.m. Central Time. If you guys would love to come to that one, we do offer a Coffee and Cargo mailing list. What that does is it just automatically signs you up every month, so you don't have to. If you'd love to be a part of that, you can email myself at rachel@interlogusa.com. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for joining. Antonio, it was great, and hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thank you.